Who is responsible for player interaction outside of competition? Is it the event or is it the player? Before we get into that, welcome to the Disc Golf Show. My name is Nick and this is episode 28 of the 2026 season. This show is brought to you in part by our local pro shop, Final Nine Sports. If you're in Northern California, they have two locations, one in Orangevale and one in Rockland. Always support local if you can. However, if what you're looking for is not at your local pro shop, we do have a remedy, and that is Disc Golf Deals USA. If you go to discgolfdealsusa.com/disc golf show, you can save 10% off of your entire order. Some exclusions do apply, but most everything on there, save that money while you can. As always, you know we like to start off with good news, and this is kind of a personal one. A big shout out to my little sister on my wife's side on their new addition. We're excited to see her as soon as she's out of the hospital and back up and running. So shout out to family additions. Also, happy birthday to Paul Macbeth. He just recently turned 36. Big question is, will he get another major before he retires? I'm hoping he does, but let me know if you are, if you think he will or will not get that additional major victory. Don't forget, go vote in the 2026 PDGA elections. You have until July 31st, so obviously votes are what help change things, whichever way you lean. So do that if you are able to. I did want to recognize the Junior World Champs, so I'm going to run through some winners here. So give me a few. MP18, Ethan Hatters was the winner. FP18, we had Eva Lutsenko, who is 13 years old. She won by 17 strokes in the FP18 division, and this is her third straight Worlds win. So she won in FJ12. She also won in FJ12 again last year, and then she now won in FJ18. So shout out, she is a name that you're going to have to stay tuned and pay attention to moving forward because she looks like she's going to be dominating as she ages. MP15, Tammy Maheen. FP15, Irene Cisneros. MP12, Henry Tabor. FP12, Hayden Harper. MP10, Cody Bucher. FP10, Keely Bain. MP8 or 08, Calvin Fink, and FP8, Lizzie Hacker. Shout out to all those young major winners. Hopefully we hear those names as we move forward. A little bit of an update to the World's Discraft Innova collab. More versions of the Buzz and Rock have been announced, mostly in plastics and stamps, so stay tuned for that. Quote unquote, this release includes 10 stamp variations across unique plastic blends that have helped define both companies over the years. Over the next few weeks, we'll be revealing every design and the odds for each variation, so stay tuned. So obviously some of these are going to be more rare than others. Let me know if you intend on trying to get a full collection or not. Yeah, and which way you lean. Are you Buzz or Rock? Let me know. I did want to throw this out there. So there's been some talk about a possible new venture from Flight District Disc Golf. Shout out to them. Obviously, this is something that I've thought about ever since Top Golf has been around, and that's kind of where he's coming from. It's Top Golf for disc golf, basically. A few questions that he did want me to ask, and I'm more than happy to do so. And I will keep you updated on any additional information as this venture grows and continues, but here are the questions for you. Let me know below. Is disc golf finally big enough for something like this? For something like Top Golf? What would you want inside a place like Flight District? Let me know. Different things. If you want an arcade as well, if you want pool tables, if you want a bar, whatever it may be. And also, how far would you drive to visit a business like that. So a disc golf, Top Golf. More than happy to relay that information to him. Hopefully you can provide some suggestions or input. Maybe you've thought about this yourself and you have a little bit of information that you've drummed up. Let me know below so we can, hopefully maybe this turns into something. Moving on, PDGA rating update is today, and we have a couple, well, we have some big news. One, Silva Sarnen hit a new career high of rating 991, and currently I think this year she's probably, for the year, the #1 disc golfer in FPO. But yeah, that's a good for her, pushing that ceiling. Obviously, the ceiling was set by Kristen Lott, but it's good to see the other players in that division pushing hard to try to break those records. As for records, Gannon finally reached the 1063 mark. Today, July 14th, after 8 years of playing in MPO, he has 61 career wins, and he has reached and broken Paul McBeth's record of 1062 that he set on July 14th in 2020. So that's kind of funny. That's cool. The fact that both records were set on July 14th. McBeth took him 14 years to reach. McBeth also has 152 career wins. I mean, this does drum up a lot of questions. The main one being, is it easier now than it was in the past to get those higher rating rounds? There's arguments on both sides. Obviously, there's a stronger field, but yeah, I mean that's an awesome record to break. Shout out to Gannon for finally hitting that. I mean, you know, he's been working on it for quite a while now. For the past probably solid year, he's been pushing hard to try to break that record, and he finally did. So shout out, congrats, Gannon Burr. All right, well, we're to the big event, the Heinola Open. I always called it Heinola, but I guess I've heard it pronounced Heinola. So Heinola Open, we'll run through the divisions here really quick. FPO, Annika Sten got out early ahead of some youngsters, those being Julia Force and Kristina Yursakova. We both know, well, I mean, if you don't know, those are both young players, and they have been eking their way up the ladder and being at those lead cards over the past several events. So shout out to, again, Julia Force and Kristina Yursakova. Julia actually pushed into first, 2 strokes ahead of Kristina and Anniken for round 2. Anniken ended up shooting a great round to overtake Julia by 2 strokes to get that win. So shout out to Anniken for that victory. She did say that she's been watching the World Cup, and with Norway having lost their game against England, she wanted to get a win for Norway. So shout out to her. Congrats on that big win. As for MPO, this one's kind of crazy because for the majority of the event, there were very few Americans in the lead. Obviously, a lot of the American players came back after the Ale Open, but it's good to see the caliber of player overseas pushing and showing that they can compete at that highest level. Lori Lettinen for MPO. Lori Lettinen took an early lead of 1 over 4 other players that were tied for second, Gannon being one of those players. Surprise, not surprise. And he was the only American after the first round to be in the top 10. So like I said, there were some great players over there from the US, but we do see a lot of European players that are vying for those wins. Daniel Davidson ended up jumping into first while Gannon dropped to third, which is 2 strokes back of first after round 2. And again, this was only a 3-round event, but it was cool to watch. AB ends up shooting in the final round a 14 down to jump from 33rd all the way up to 8th. And Gannon shot a 12 down to ultimately win by 3 strokes over Calvin. So a lot of the Americans ended up pushing in that final round and ended up taking 5 of the top 10 spots. But yeah, again, Gannon, final round, you can never count him out. He's, you know, Paul McBeth was the same way. It didn't matter how far back he was, well, relatively. but if he's within striking distance, he is a force to be reckoned with. There were some issues that arose and were brought up in discussion after the event concluded, and a few of them I'm going to go over here. One was how lowlights of players were highlighted. Lowlights were highlighted. And is that a bad look for the Disc Golf Network or the tour? Because yes, we know, especially in FPO, there are players that have had struggles in different parts of their game, but at some point, we need to recognize that they are no longer that person. Maybe you want to reference it shortly, but the concentration and what you want to look at now is what they're doing currently. You know, they've overcome their yips, or they've overcome their issues in this category of their game. I do agree with the person who brought this up that you need to highlight the good and not continually kind of berate them for their past issues that they had. So that's one of the things. Let me know what you think. Another, ad placement at tour events. This is, if you know me, I get frustrated with how they put ads up at tour events. One thing that I can say, though, that I did like was the ad strip around the tee pads. So they used that border of the tee pad for ad area, and that is amazing. The players don't see it when they're throwing, but it is very apparent by the color and the bright visuals, and I think that's great. The things I hate are the signs stretched from tree to tree, and the signs that are put up right next to the tee pads or in front of the tee pads. I think that is horrible. It's a distraction for the players, in my opinion. Again, I'm not out there. I would love to get some opinions from some of the top players or some of the players that are out there. I just think that why can't these things be put in digitally and for advertisement purposes? And if you do want to advertise at the event, put them in less conspicuously for the spectators that attend the event physically. I think that's a great compromise. I think it's easier to do that. I think it's probably less of a hassle for the people that are running the event. Less items to put out. Just pop it up visually in the stream. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Again, I've talked about that ad infinitum in the past. But moving on, the last thing was drama from the fans and event organizer. I'm going to say Yuri. Could be Jerry. Yuri Pojankowski. We know that he's the event lead. He laid into Gannon for leaving shortly after winning due to his international flight schedule. There were a few things that happened here, and he felt the fans were left with nothing due to his quick departure. Quote-unquote, Gannon Burr won the DGPT Heinola Open and just left the fans with nothing. Whole line waiting and the champion leaves without saying anything. Is this a proper way for our sport? Kids waiting hours to get the name or signature. Should this give us motivation to arrange these events more or better is what I'm guessing. Yes. I think that is more so on a working together with the player and making sure that they're able to stay. You know, quote unquote, again, I have flight to catch. Who the F books a flight with so tight schedule? Just a lame bro, so effing lame. This is not the way to grow the sport. Gannon Burr replied, he said, I'm sorry I wasn't able to stick around, but I actually had zero time to spare. I did my best to sign extra throughout the week. Sometimes, if these things aren't organized well enough, then you're going to have these issues, especially with international play. We don't know, you know, I'll get to that. Because shortly after that, he did apologize. And he posted a few different apologies, I believe. So I'm going to run through these just so you know exactly. I don't want to misjudge him or say something he didn't. So first apology was, I apologize to everyone. I was tired after a long start. My performance was ill-considered and inadequate. Acted on emotion when was surprised at that moment. I have been waiting for American players for in Heinola for over 10 years, and when the winner left quietly without podium photos or autographs, emotions hit the tired Yuri. I assumed that these were normal things, and I didn't know that their team had a planned schedule that wouldn't even withstand extended routes or weather interruptions. I raised my hand in the air to indicate a mistake. I messed up. I did something wrong. Sometimes when you do a lot, it doesn't always work out. This went into the notebook now. I'll make separate apology posts everywhere this afternoon. I'm glad he did that. Is it too little too late? I don't think so. I think expectations are different from what actually happens. I think that, again, like he said, when you've put an event together and you think you've got everything tied up and buttoned up and everything, some things will slip through the cracks. The fact that maybe his flight didn't allow for weather issues, that might be more of an issue than anything, because if there was bad weather and they had to postpone or pause the event, would he not have been able to finish? Are there reasons in which he would have delayed or postponed his flight out? So there is an argument there, but moving on to apology number 2. On Sunday evening, I messed up, and I want to sincerely apologize to the disc golf community, the fans, the professional players, and especially Gannon Burr. We had an incredible DGPT Heinola Open, and everything went better than we could have hoped. But at the very end, I made a serious mistake. I was completely exhausted, both mentally and physically, and I made poor decisions by posting publicly when I was not in the right state of mind. When Gannon left unexpectedly, I was caught completely off guard, and I handled the situation badly. That does not excuse my actions. I reacted emotionally, and I deeply regret what I did. I am disappointed in myself, and I will learn from this. It will not happen again. This year has taken more out of me than I realized. Now I need to rest, recover, and take care of myself. Thank you for your understanding. I am truly sorry, and I hope you can forgive me. I hope to see all of you, players, fans, volunteers, and friends, back in campus someday. Again, shout out for him owning it. Shout out to him for seeing maybe he jumped the gun on that and addressed it too quickly without looking at all the aspects. Is his apology acceptable, or is he just trying to cover his butt? Ultimately, we don't know. Nobody does but him. I think it is in good faith that you take it as a valid apology. And is this an issue? I think it's a non-issue in the end, because again, emotions get the best of us sometimes, and when you do something with that much energy and effort that you've put into, you hold it dear to your chest. It's basically like a kid to you, and I can see how you can get defensive about certain things. Whether or not it was scheduled correctly or the discussion with the players were addressed correctly, you adjust. You move forward and you take those things into consideration at future events. So I think that will be something that will be addressed more from these events, of saying, hey, as a player, you're required to be here for 2 hours after the end of the round, or something like that. That's in their contract for playing these events. Maybe that's something that gets implemented. We don't know. I do feel like, yes, Gannon could have left a day later or more, but we also don't know his obligations. He could have media obligations here back in the US. He could have schedules, meetings that he has set up. You don't know. There's a lot behind the scenes of these players that they do that aren't on the course that come into play for scheduling and for travel. So, obviously there was a reason why he couldn't stay there, and I'm sure it's more than a valid reason. Maybe I can get some more information on that to fill in the gaps there. I would say scheduling these things out in connection with the event to assure players will be there is more on the event staff side, because they are responsible for running the event. You can't just assume that they'll be able to stay, even when that's what most people would want. Obviously, he did state, he tried to sign as many during the event and in the previous days. So he did what he felt he could, and you need to be happy with that. Unless it's in writing, they're not responsible, unless they're signed on dotted line that, hey, yeah, I will be here for such and such time. It's kind of, you got to go with the flow. One question I do have for you is, what are the event organizers responsible for versus what the athletes are responsible for? Do you think the athletes are the ones that need to suggest these things to the event organizers, or are these the things that all event organizers need to take into consideration and have on their checklist to mark off? Obviously, moving forward, I think, again, these things will all be things that will be addressed in the future. So shout out to the event. The course looked beautiful. There were open shots, there were wooded shots. It was very well manicured. These are the kind of courses that I would love to play myself. Maybe someday, but I did like the venue very much. So shout out to those who got that venue looking the way it was. Last but not least, Silas Schultz watch. With a good final round at Heinola, he did jump. He was out of cash after round 2, but he jumped out of cash, which was in 47th, all the way up to 28th. So, and with that, he only dropped 1 spot on the DGPT standing. So he went from last week at 13th, and now he is at 14th place. And if you are looking to track your favorite player or any player that you want to check on, we will have the link to the DGPT standings down below, so check those out. Brings us to the question of the episode. On a different note, just because I recently saw somebody address this, which is curious because it happened to me. When you have a CT in play at your local club weeklies, what do you think happens if somebody aces versus somebody, let's say, has a leaner? Does the ace get the CTP, or the ace is an ace that's separate and closest to basket means not in the basket? Let me know what you think about that. I actually aced. Again, I referenced that when it happened, but I didn't take the CTP prize or whatever it was. I was like, you know what? I'm happy with the ace. I don't need the CTP as well. Give it to the person who is next closest, or whatever you want to call. Not even next closest. Closest to the basket, outside of the basket. Let me know what you think about that. Which side do you land on? Does the ace get the CTP as well because it's in the basket, or do you think CTP means closest to pin without being in? That rhymed. Before we move on to gear and equipment, guys, do me a favor, hit the subscribe, the like, the share, and the notifications. All the goods, I really do appreciate it. It does help a lot. Moving on to gear and equipment, this segment is brought to you by Disc Golf Deals USA. If you go to discgolfdealsusa.com/discgolfshow, save 10% off of your entire order. A stack of practice putters, a bag, a cart, any of those items, save that 10%. It does add up. Some exclusions do apply, mostly just new molds. But yeah, discgolfdealsusa.com/discgolfshow. As for approved discs, we only had a couple, and they weren't approved yesterday. They were approved on July 8th and the 9th, and those are both from Forge Discs. The one being the Tanto, and the other the Fuller. Very cool looking discs. The texture looks very interesting. I do want to get my hands on some. If I can, I will, and I will show you when I do. But go check them out. Again, those links will be down below. You can check them out on PDGA as well. And like I said, nothing was approved yesterday, but we do have some updates and some information on some recent and upcoming releases. Discraft announced the First Run Aries, which will be available at discraft.com, as well as, again, discraft.com will have these ones. Stock Z Sled, which will be available on July 10th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In addition to the Paul Macbeth Ultra Luna, which also drops on July 10th, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that one will be available in both hard and soft blends. And then Discmania announced some new signature releases coming soon. Again, we know yesterday the Game Breaker, which is the Gavin Babcock Signature Series Horizon C Line PD, is now available, as well as on July 20th, the limited edition Flex 3 Vapor D-Line P1, which is the Ontala Major Champion disc. So if you want to support them, go check those out at Discmania or local pro shop when they get them. Trash Panda also announced a new signature disc, which is the Maria Oliva signature disc. It is a UV color changing inner core. So if you're a fan of the inner core and want to pick one of these up, they will be dropping on July 16th at noon Mountain Time. And it was nicknamed by Maria, My Honey Bunches. So if you're a Trash Panda fan and if you're an inner core fan, go check those out July 16th. And last but not least, the most important item in your disc golf gear, your shoes. Shout out to the couple companies that we like to highlight on here, that being Idio Sports and Vessi. Ultimately comes down to personal preference, style. Outside of that, there is a little bit of difference due to the soles. So Idios have more of a zero style sole versus Vessi has more of a sneaker, running style shoe. Both lightweight, both waterproof options. Let me know which one you like most. And then now, upcoming events, guys. As for upcoming events, this weekend, July 16th to 19th, the 2026 USWDGC, another PDGA major being held in Salt Lake City, Utah. We had that here back in 2021, 2022. Very fun. If you can, if you are in Salt Lake City area, go watch, go spectate, go support all the female players at the USWDGC, United States Women's Disc Golf Championships. And then always, until this happens, we're going to be dropping this in here, September 9th, Paul Macbeth Foundation, the Global. This is the event where there's going to be tournaments all across the globe, and you'll be competing with everybody across the globe. And they're doing all the back-end rating, scoring stuff, and you'll see where you land globally. So that is a cool one. Moving on to the mailbag, where we give you some products and videos or content to consume. If you've consumed them, great. If you haven't, check these out. And this segment is brought to you by Buckets DG. If you go to Buckets DG, use code DiscGolfShow and you can save 10% off your order. They do have shirts, long sleeve, short sleeve. They have some other items too on there, but the shirts are very comfortable, very breathable, lightweight. They fit well. They have different styles. Go check them out. Again, bucketsdg.com. As for the product, Fairway 5. This is a fun digital disc golf guess the pro game. I came across it on social media. If you go to fairway5.us, you can check it out. You have 5 guesses and they give you 5 hints to try to guess the person that they have in mind. A very cool little fun game. I was horrible at it, but it was still fun to play. If you are knowledgeable about pros, about a lot of the scoring and wins and all that type of stuff across the years, check it out. Again, fairway5.us. And then in addition to that, shout out to, again, Disc Golf Deals USA. Sent us a few discs. We got a Boca Special Edition. We have this one. I love the stamps that some of these companies come up with. And this is the TSA Matt Bell Experimental Ethos Pathfinder. But look at that stamp. Super cool stamp. And then last but not least, I wanted to get my hands on one of these. So shout out again to Disc Golf Deals for hooking me up with one of these. I have held one in the past at my local pro shop. Again, if you go check them out at a local pro shop. But these things are crazy lightweight. I mean, like insane. And they feel more foamy than they do plasticky. But there obviously it's a blend. So I want to get out and throw that, see how stable. I've seen a lot of people throwing them and being surprised at how stable they are for how lightweight they are. So I am very curious as to how they fly. I'll give you more information on that in the future. As for the video or content, I'm going to do you a favor. Go follow Raven Klein on Instagram. Just do it and thank me later. It's one of the fun and funniest pro disc golfer IG social media pages. She's hilarious. If you don't know, you will learn. So if you go to Instagram, look up R Klein, so RKLEIN 55, and follow. You're welcome. All right, that brings us to the end of the show, guys, where we like to give you some options to save some money. Again, If you're in the market for a bag, go to Upper Park Disc Golf. You can use code DiscGolfShow, save some money out there for the bags. Buckets DG, again, use code DiscGolfShow. You can save 10% off of your purchase. Get some new shirts, long sleeve or short sleeve, some attire for your tournaments or for your, walking around town. Shout out to Disc Golf Deals USA. Go to discgolfdealsusa.com/discgolfshow to save 10% off of your entire order. You want a cart, a basket, practice basket for your backyard, new bag, save that money. Large order discs, you need some backups. Save that money. You can get discs like I just showed you. You can get some of these. You can get some Thought Space Athletic, some really cool stamps. Save that 10%. It does add up. And last but not least, shout out to our local pro shop, Final 9 Sports. Always support local if you can. If you are in Northern California, Sacramento area, they have 2 locations, one in Orangeville and one in Rockland. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any items, which again, shout out to those of you who have sent me some information. If you have any items you want me to include in an upcoming episode, shoot me an email, discgolfshow@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to spread the word and help you get the word out. Or if you just want to berate me or complain about what I talk about, send me an email. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe, the like, the share, and the notifications. Again, it does help more than you think. Yeah, I hope you have a blessed day, and I will see you next week.